Hello, everyone. My name is Tabs, and welcome to episode 74 of the Grove podcast. I hope you're all doing well and recovered from trying to follow 18 Champions League games and the constantly updating table all at the same time. I know my eyes are suffering a bit from that yesterday. Anyway, so we've got a packed show today, and so we're going to move on very swiftly, as swiftly as we can. Joining me today, of course, is a regular guest. Is Jamie? How are you? And how are you after last night's action?
Very well. It was quite nice, wasn't it? It was like a nice little friendly or something in some ways. Lots of rotation. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, no, it was a good evening. It was a fun evening, and yeah, I thought it was very entertaining just following all the different games and seeing the different scores and see how it's ending. But typical, yeah, we were all thinking like all these big clubs are gonna go out and the little clubs go through, and then normality resumes, unfortunately. So, which is
disappointing, wasn't it?
Yes,
it all looked so good a couple of weeks ago, and now it's just
Well, they're inevitable. There we go. Anyway, look, as I said, we've got lots to get through. So we're going to be talking about last night's game, what it means for the rest of the competition. Then we've got some transfer rumours to talk about. We've got a bit of a follow-up on the red card, and then the small matter of Man City at the weekend. So without further ado, what was your highlight and lowlight of last night's game against Girona?
Highlight is really simple. You can't not have Ethan Nwaneri and his goal. I mean, the goal was just Saka-esque, wasn't it? That was the brilliance of it as well. It just felt like, oh wow, we really have been missing this. That if effortless kind of cut inside, and maybe the one thing that was a little bit different to Saka is he normally rolls in with a bit of strength for that move, doesn't he? Whereas Ethan Nwaneri just seems to his pounce is sort of like his burst is just ridiculous. So yeah, that was absolutely gorgeous, and his performance overall was brilliant. And then for low light, I'm going to go with the Sterling penalty miss, just based on I just kind of thought when he got that at the end, I thought, oh lovely, he's had a half decent game at times today. He's actually threatened quite a bit, and maybe this is an opportunity for him to get a bit of confidence. And of course, the penalty wasn't even that bad a penalty; just telegraphed it, and the keeper's done well. But it was just some things up, unfortunately, for him at the moment.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, the penalty is, again, it strikes me as the sort of similar to the Havertz one in the penalty shootout against Man United. You just want to get it on target.
Yeah.
However, you don't have the conviction, like Jorginho did. His was actually nearer to the goalkeeper, but there was a bit more conviction. He sold it better, hit it harder, whereas you can just tell you take a bit off the penalty to make sure it goes in, but then the safety thing, and I think no one was confident he was going to score that. And actually my thing about the penalty, I wanted Odegaard to take it. I think he needed it more because of the miss that he had against, I think it was Man United. Or Havertz. They needed it more. I don't care about Sterling. He's now second off the bench behind Nwaneri, in matches. So, and he's on loan. So, I think as a club we're nice. We do we do give these, in inverted commas, pity penalties, and in the past they have worked. I think that's the third penalty missed this season, if outside of a penalty shootout.
Because
you got Trossard,
Odegaard, and if you add the penalty shootout in, that's what 5.
4. So Trossard, Odegaard, and Havertz. So, but it is what it is, and it didn't impact the game ultimately in the end. So in terms of my highlight, I think the rotation, and it was a nice distraction from the domestic challenges and all the shit that we've had to deal with this week. And I think, it just seemed to be a nice. We could go into it without any. We wanted to win, and it was important to win. But if we didn't, then who knows how the dice are going to fall, given like how the other teams are performing. So we could go into it. We rotated, rested players that needed rested, give players a chance, and nice distraction. In terms of low light. I don't want to talk about refs, but I'm going to talk about refs. I found the ref yesterday a bit bizarre, and primarily at corners, and maybe it's just the Champions League as a whole. I find there's a lot of soft fouls get given, and especially corners. You get punished for being bigger, stronger, and more dominant than your opposition. And there's one particular corner where Big G goes up and he just challenges for the ball, and then the goalkeeper comes out, tries to punch it, hits it, and then falls on the floor. hardly touched, and he gets the free kick. And I think we saw it against Porto away last season. I just feel it just winds me up. It winds me up, and I think it's just a general. I find Champions League games can be a bit stop-starty sometimes because a lot of soft fouls get given. But then what was the odd thing about that game? That they were, and then all of a sudden they weren't, and it all went a bit messy in the latter part of the second half. So just that was just a bit of a low light for me.
I mean, it's a Serie A ref, isn't it? And I think certainly around corners in particular, you've got to be a little bit more sly in Serie A. You don't get the kind of physicality that you tend to see in the Premier League quite.
I know, but you're going up to challenge for a header. You're just bigger than your player. The player crumbles. It's not a foul. You just jump into head of ball, and it's just or the goalkeeper fluffs his lines, and it's just it's an irritant. It sort of nullifies one of our threats, so which we need. So look, and then the other low light potentially, and this leads on to the lineup was Neto in goal, which wasn't a low light before the game, shall we say? And I thought, oh, nice, and Rare out, oh, good. But a couple of things on that. So the lineup was Neto in goal. Then we had Partey at right back, which was fine for a change. Kivior, Gabriel, Calafiori, then Marino, Odegaard, Jorginho, and then Nwaneri, Trossard, and Sterling up front. So it turns out that Rare is injured, or Arteta says he certainly could not play. He's injured, and that is it. What were your thoughts on that, and what were your thoughts on Norberto Neto? 34 years and 194 days, becoming the oldest debutant since. Now I know your history is good, but I'm pretty sure you don't know this one. Ned Liddell. In 1915, that was the last time we had an old age pensioner debut.
I certainly did not know Ned Liddell. Fair enough. All right.
But what were your thoughts on the lineup? And do you believe Arteta, or do you think he's over-egging it?
To be honest, I mean, the lineup was fine. It was good. It was nice to see. It was like, okay, this is good. We don't absolutely need to win this game. I had my doubts before it as to whether we even wanted to win it in terms of who you got in the next round. Anyway, it's the weird thing about the way that the league table has stretched out is actually it doesn't feel like there's a massive difference being kind of one position to the next, really, and it's a little bit luck of the draw as to just who happens to be in the groups of three teams that they've kind of put them into. It was nice to see him actually rotate. I thought as well, to add to that, substitutions as well felt like they were appropriate and well timed, and the right people coming on and off. But Neto was the one thing where I didn't quite realise just how much that was going to be a bit of an absence for David Raya, at least anyway. Certainly for the goal, it was pretty poor, and I thought overall he wasn't brilliant. So, look, I'm sure that it's probably a lot of rust. The guy has played for Valencia and Barcelona in his career, and I think was reasonably well rated in his time for Valencia. So my hope is that is just a case of what we saw today, and he'll be a little bit safer should he be called upon for the Premier League. But it does worry me a bit. That's the standout thing in the selection. Really, was just that. But overall, it's all the guys that you want to see in this kind of game.
No, exactly. My initial thought was, he has to say it because just to be politically correct in terms of we're not putting out the weakest of teams. That sort of thing. He sort of says these things, but he was very direct. I expect him to be okay, but I think we're all our whiskers are twitching.
Saturday, aren't you?
Yeah, our whiskers are twitching. I mean, the highlight was, and like you said, it's like a start for Nwaneri. He's only 17. Okay, he's 18 in February, but until he's 18, he's 17. He's got his first Champions League start, and he's like the youngest player alongside Cesc and Theo to play 5 times in the Champions League before he's 18, and you said he scored a great goal, and he's become the second youngest Englishman to score in the Champions League behind Jude Bellingham. He was man of the match, and he's already got 6 goals this season, and what a performance! And is that his trademark goal? He did it against Preston. I think he tried it against Man United. He tried it against Southampton. And it is very Saka-esque. He's coming in off the right, cutting across, and he can hit the fucking ball. It wasn't just a nice
winger to back up Saka, right? We've just waited for this basically, and I mean, he's going to get minutes elsewhere, I'm sure, as well, because he's growing at a phenomenal rate, and the next couple of years are going to be interesting for him. But yeah, I mean, very, very, very good. Not as consistent yet.
No, he's 17.
Not as forceful yet,
No.
But what a talent, man! Oh.
Yeah, he can hit the ball, and because I said it wasn't a nice curler. It was that ball was hit, hit hard. Goalkeeper ain't saving that, and he actually smiled, which was nice. So, I don't know.
He didn't in his interview again. It was about as dead man as it gets. It's just like you really do get two different characters out of the two kids in the team, don't you? Because we're blessed with having the both of them around at the moment. And MLS has got kind of that bit of cheekiness and that bit
chippy. He's got a chippy. He's a bit chippy, isn't he?
He's a little bit chippy, and then when he's interviewed, he's a little bit more fun as well. And then there's Ethan, just genuinely looks like he's having
he's all business.
Like he's just doing a very a mundane data processing job or something like that. It's quite strange.
I think his personality will come out. I think afterwards he was interviewed, said, look, it's the Champions League. It's what I've loved and watched since I was young. So to come here and win man of the match on my starting debut, it's a special feeling. I'm happy. You'd never know. Listening to the music was surreal. That's the moment I've lived my whole life. The music was special to me, so that was great. It's crazy. Life moves fast, but I'm happy to be here. This is where I've always wanted to be, so I'm grateful that I'm here. So, underlying, I think he seems to be pretty content. And it's odd that for the younger generation that Champions League music, means something to them, and it has a sort of has resonance and stuff like that. Whereas I think maybe for us, it's older types, it's just a bit of marketing cliche nonsense stuff.
You say that. Honestly, when it came on, when we got back in the Champions League that first night, last season or season, I can't really remember now. But
it was last season. Last season was first time back in a while. So
that was really big for me actually.
Okay.
I went in early. I mean, I'm normally literally creeping in my seat as North London Forever's going. I'm not a get there early person at all.
Right.
But I specifically got there like 10 minutes early, take my seat and be there for the Champions League anthem. Because for me as well, I don't know what it is, but it does kind of resonate for some reason.
Okay, no, maybe I'm being a bit harsh. Maybe I'm being a bit of a curmudgeon, but obviously it means things to them, and it is part of it. And you can see people like in the lineup for the first time, especially like last season, like looking around and. Yeah, I mean, maybe it just adds to the occasion. I think it adds to the occasion, and so it's I don't mind it. I'm maybe a bit cynical. That's all. So look, 2-1 win. What were your overall thoughts on the game? What did you make of the performance as a whole?
Do you know, it was really fun. It was a lot more fun than Zagreb, I thought, which, as I told you at the time, I ended up just really bored and cold. I think being in a pub also might have helped me with this one as well. But I think it was actually quite nice because it felt like Girona actually did come, or we went to Girona with them really looking to give us a game. And they had, plenty of opportunities. I thought they played quite decently. And so to see but similarly as well with the amount of rotation that we had then, and with us having the likes of Ethan in there, it kept it nice and exciting for us. We were watching something that was, that was quite fun. So yeah, it was an enjoyable game. It wasn't a game that we controlled in the way that we might want to a lot of the time. In an away game in the Champions League, there are games where we've been much more in control of what was happening and a lot more solid. But I think for the lineup that we put out there, it was cool. It was good. It was nice to see us still be able to put in a performance whilst limiting the minutes and exposure for some of the best players in the team.
Yeah, I felt. Yeah, I think it was the best we could do with what we had. It was quite disjointed. That back four. We base everything off our back four and that back three triangle, Raya and Saliba and Gabriel. So when that's not there, it's a very the faces aren't unfamiliar, but the roles they're playing is sort of relatively unfamiliar, and that showed up in the goal. There was so much at fault there between Trossard, between Partey, Kivior, and Calafiori, between the three of them. That goal came, and then also. Trossard playing false nine. Now he may have played that role okay, and diminutive false nine, but I felt like we were missing a focal point up front, someone really holding the ball, having a bit of presence in the box. I think it seemed to be the only time there was presence in the box was Marino getting in there, and he was the only one there. So therefore you noticed that we were hardly doing any crosses of any height, which we would with Havertz and Marino there, or Havertz and Rice there, or something like that. So yeah, it was. You're right. It was unfamiliar, and but then again, a bit like Zagreb, lacked the intensity, playing in second gear. We couldn't quite dominate. So it was what you expect. Then the ref makes it a bit stop-starty. So, and then Girona defended well and they attacked with pace. So, they played their part as well. But I'd say all in all, there were some good moments, some interesting talking points, which we'll get to. But I think ultimately it'd be quite forgettable. And it was all about the result, all about getting the job done, minimal fuss, and then move on. So,
which was just nice to see that we can do that with that team. Yeah. I genuinely thought that was quite. And there was something about the scrappiness of it and the lack of control in and out of possession that was kind of fun to see as well.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Because I don't think I'd feel that way if it was Sunday at all. But I think
of course
it being the midweek game versus a team that you don't really even care particularly about what the result's going to end up being, and it's more of a it would be nice to get the win and keep the momentum going a little bit. That was that was perfectly pleasant. So yeah, I genuinely look at it quite fondly as a game. I think it was a bit of fun. Also, quite enjoyed a couple of individual performances too. I thought Marino was quite fun.
Okay,
he had a decent game. I thought that also Calafiori as well had his moments on either side of things, but his disallowed goal I was so gutted about because he has got this little bit of a knack, it feels like, for arriving in those spots and being a half decent finisher. And I mean that was a really nice little finish from him as well for a left back in that position. So whilst he was an absolute mile offside, as the replay shows,
yes,
I would have loved to have seen him walk away with another goal because hopefully he keeps a bit of fitness and keeps going. And I know MLS came on 65th minute or something like that. I still think I'd rather see MLS against City.
Against City, yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But nonetheless, it's just nice to see if Calafiori can get a few more games like this under his belt, then I think the good moments are starting to show with him at certain times.
Yeah, no, we can touch on the individual performances as we sort of go through the moments. So sort of throughout the game, as I said, I think there was lots of interesting moments, talking points, throughout this game. So, our friend Neto in minute 2 decided to make the game interesting, sort of getting caught on the ball and almost giving a goal away. And then you said there's the Calafiori. I liked his performance. I think you can't miss it. That's the thing. You cannot miss him. He's such a presence. He's a character driving forward. It's he's rough around the edges. He's like the third youngest in the squad. I think he's only 22. So there's a lot to improve upon. But I think he's got that. It's a bit like who's the City defender that keeps also scoring at the moment. Guardiola. Yeah, he keeps cropping up and he's got a finish on him. Yeah, so
quite similar players actually. I think in a few respects. I mean, Guardiola is much the better defender at this stage.
Yes,
and he's got a few years on him, but. Yeah, they are quite similar. That kind of marauding big unit, which you don't really expect to see. It's very, very different world to Zinchenko, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you once he gets going, you can't stop him. You said he's the size of him. You can't stop him. So that was sort of on 11 minutes. And actually, before then, we had a big chance with Trossard just getting it all wrong, and it hits him on the back from a nice Waneri cross. But that's what it was. But then we have that moment, the Danjuma goal, where it's a Kivior steps out of the line and he neither goes and attacks the creative player with the ball, nor stays in his line. So he's in the halfway house. Danjuma loses party very easily, and then Calafiori's sort of playing with his headband, so keeps everyone offside. But then the most hysterical thing about that is, thank God Neto did not save the ball. He's 5 yards out of his box. Now, I know we play with our goalkeepers pushed out, and that's just the thing. But it's fine. But he should know where he is. He should know. I don't know. I'd love to know, what was he doing? And maybe instinctive. What was he doing? And luckily, he did not touch it, or luckily he scored, because imagine we get down to 10 men, and this ain't no Michael Oliver sending off.
Yeah.
Play, it's sort of like, oh my, and it's like, Stepford has to go in goal because whatever that was. I don't know what it was hilarious. It was like, what's he doing?
It was somewhat of a concern that moment. I mean, obviously, results in the cup, but exactly as you say, I actually much prefer that Danjuma took it nice and early, curled it round him, and gave him no chance because had he touched it, I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. I don't know what he's trying to achieve there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Partey did look a little bit leggy at times as well. I thought in defence looked quite good going forward, strangely, but he wasn't great for it. Kivior wasn't great for it. It was just overall, it was just a triangle of we've gone to sleep there, boys. That's not so much fun.
And it looked miles offside, but until you realised no, he was actually miles onside. But and that goal seemed to lift Girona. There was 2 or 3 attacks there afterwards. It could have gone 2-0 up. Nothing clear cut, but it woke up the crowd, woke up the team, and we were under pressure, under the cosh for about 10 minutes until Partey, as you said, going forward, drives into the box and gets fouled. And to me, it seems a bit of a stupid foul because Partey was never getting near the ball. He was not getting near the ball, so it was just, I'm not too sure what the defender was thinking. And thankfully, he did trip him because it would have just been rolling to the goalkeeper's hands. And I initially thought it was soft, and then upon replay, no, it was a stonewall penalty, but just a bit like the second penalty, didn't need to happen.
Yeah, then, soft in the respect that had he not done that, nothing is happening at all.
Yeah,
everything is. Yeah, it's a really, really strange penalty in that respect, and you might feel aggrieved, but you'd have to feel aggrieved with the player themselves that's done it, right? It's just a zero.
Yeah, I think it was instinct. It's just an instinctive reaction type thing. I think you think, no, I don't ever think a player is, I better foul him so he doesn't get the ball, or I don't think anybody. It just sort of happens in the moment. So upsets Jorginho, puts it away nicely, confidently. Yeah, in contrast. However, I wasn't happy that he took it. I would have preferred Odegaard to take it because he's going to be more likely to be on the pitch when our next penalty happens. It's not like Jorginho needed a pity penalty, like we'll talk about later. So it was a bit.
I disagree. I think he's just the best penalty taker when he's on the pitch. So hasn't he got a record of like?
He's only missed 2. I think he's only ever missed 2 across his whole career, or something. Yeah. Like that.
I would say in that position, I think it's more of a pity penalty if you give it to Odegaard to an extent. You're trying to set Odegaard up for something else, whereas. If you just go on the day, who is our most consistent penalty taker, and that's Jorginho, give it him. Because at that point, we're a goal down. And as much as it's not, the most important game in the world, you're still trying to get 11 and go and win the game. So, I see your point of view. I get what you mean. I think it'd be more beneficial in the long term, potentially, if Odegaard wins it. I just think you're still trying to win a game in the short term.
Okay. No, fair enough. Yeah, it's just a take, and fair enough. So less of a pity penalty, but more of a he should score penalty. So okay, no, fair enough. And then 4 minutes later, wow. As we said, when Eri cuts in on his left foot and curled it at pace into the far side of the net, and I said same as against Preston, and he's attempted and just summed up his game, and sort of. People will see him, to do that on that stage in the Champions League. Doesn't matter, it's against Girona, whatever it is, he will be noticed. And if imagine we, this stage of the season, this stage of the transfer window, we see someone do that for another club, for PSG, for Bayern, for whoever, who's this 17-year-old wonder kid, and he's ours. He's one of our own, as they say. So. You gotta love that, and I think we talked about him, and then a couple of minutes later could have gone 3-1 up. Trossard, I said, who had a decent enough game, hits the crossbar, but not enough to go in. So I would say a deserved lead, but there were moments for both teams, and then second half. I think it was much of the same, but just without the goal. We should have gone 3-1 up in the 49th minute. Timber made a brilliant stop on the line, unfortunately for Girona. I don't think he knew too much about it. I think he was trying to get out of the way, and then he got clattered. But yeah, if that had gone in, yeah, game over for sure. And then nothing really happened until the 77th minute when Stuani had a goal ruled out for offside, which was narrow. But this was another example of where I thought the ref, I'm sure Odegaard was pushed over in the build up to it, and he let that one go, and I couldn't get it. So and it was a nice goal there afterwards, but thankfully ruled offside, because I don't think we were coming back from that. Well, as it is, I think it would have finished 2-2.
Yeah, I think very possibly.
Yeah. And then TNT, the commentators, as happens, they were really unhappy that it was ruled out. You know, they seem to be like, patronising Girona and all the rest of it. So that was a bit of a wind up. But there we go. You can't have everything. And then we have in the 92nd, 93rd minute, again another brain fart by someone on their hands. This time they made contact. No idea what the defender's doing. Puts his hand out to stop the ball again. There was no danger. And so we think, okay, let's give Sterling a penalty. He needs a bit of a lift, but it's only a lift if you score.
Yeah, I mean, that one, I totally agree. It's like you feel like you definitely wanted somebody else to take that, in fairness. I mean, but again, I suppose technically you've got your best penalty take on the pitch. The difference is at that point, you're in the 93rd minute and you really don't need it, and you're 2-1 up. But yeah, I mean, it just bothers me though, because it's a bit of a shame, because I thought at times he was all right, Sterling. I thought there was a couple of times where he jinked in off the left wing, took on his man, went past a player or two, and then ultimately did the thing that he often does in that situation, and the ball ricocheted off somebody or sort of went somewhere else, and nothing ever really tended to connect. But in fairness, I didn't think he had great targets in the area for the majority of the game. But yeah, I thought he was quite dangerous at times. And had he got himself a goal there, I could have said this is the most positive performance we've seen from Raheem Sterling. And wasn't it good, actually? You know, he had a half-decent game and he scored a goal. Lovely. There you go.
Yeah.
And
instead
in that position, it's just such a shame.
Yeah, and yeah, so you sort of feel sorry for him now. It's just not working out, and no. I mean, until he scores a hat trick against City, of course. But it's just, yeah, and you could just see at the end, even though he won, you could just see him just like, oh, for fuck's sake, he just mulling that over. Oh, and he got booked for simulation, which again was not a booking. Not every contact in the box is a foul, but not every contact in the box that isn't given as a dive. It's just one of those ones where it's a bit of both. I actually thought it was a penalty, but if it's not a penalty, it's not a dive. And yeah, so this is sort of like, again, a bit of a part of the indifferent performance from the ref. But so just to add to his woes, so he missed penalty, yellow card for diving, no end product. Next. and then you were having a go at me for being harsh on him last week.
I mean, the thing with him is, I just think he just, at the moment, it just looks like he's maybe a little bit washed, isn't he? In fairness,
yeah.
But he's a body at the moment, isn't he? Exactly as you've said several times, he is a body. And you stick him out there, and it's just. I don't know, it's just a bit of a shame, because I think he does try a bit. And actually, one of the things that I really like about him is having somebody that takes someone on from a standing start. Like, we never have that these days without Saka. There is now we do again with Ranieri. But on the left, we've had nobody doing that for like a couple of years, because neither Leo nor Gabriel Martinelli are ever really that confident to do it. So there's just something about seeing that. I just want it to work. I really want it to work.
Yeah, I'm sure we all do, but it just
me, and it's not happening. And Raheem Sterling, unfortunately, is just not going to work out.
Yeah, just bereft. I don't know. Maybe he's saving up for that one moment, for that Willian free kick against Norwich in the last game of the season moment. I don't know. Anyway, it is what it is. Game's over. We win, and look, we played 8 games. We won 6, drew 1, lost 1, and that was to a dodgy penalty against Inter Milan away. So a couple of things. I'd be interested. What are your thoughts on the new Champions League format, and what are your thoughts on on how we've performed, especially considering, okay, maybe not as challenged like we have been domestically, but we still had to deal with all the injuries and the travel and stuff. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the format and how we performed?
Format's kind of fun. I think I said the other week that the only thing that I think now is just that ultimately it really needs a reduction in games around it. So probably domestically, or to be honest, I think you could cut out some of the knockout teams and just be harsher. But I quite like the playing 7 different teams is really good fun. I like that. I think that's brilliant. And the kind of league table nature of it, etc. I wonder if maybe there's got to be something else that happens with the calendar, and I don't know what that is, but it just needs to release us a bit more time in the schedule. The team performance, I'm going to give us an A-. I thought we've had a really good campaign, given everything around it, and given things that have been going on at the weekends that sandwich these games. I think we've managed European football as well as I remember us having done. To be honest, in terms of adapting and playing the way that we need to, having high degrees of control, and just getting the job done. Has it been, the only thing that moves it from an A- to A or an A* is for it to have been a bit more entertaining at times, because it hasn't always been that entertaining. But I also don't necessarily think European football is always that entertaining, to be completely frank, at least at the league stages. It's not the most, it was never that entertaining. So yeah, our performance within it, I'm really, really happy with. But yeah, Penny, for your thoughts, mate. I think that's
No, I like the format. I think last night was fun, trying to follow it all at the same time, watching the team. It changed, and I was there with my son watching it, and and then following on the group chat. So no, I think last night was fun. I think you can't have it less than 8 games because you need a meaningful table, and 6 is not enough. So yeah, there needs to be a calendar. Somewhere needs to be a reduction in the Premiership, or domestic cups or something like that. So yeah, and thankfully, look, we missed those 2 extra games. So I think it was functional. I think there were pockets of good play. So like beating Sporting away 5-1, that was a performance and a half. Beating PSG at home 2-0, very performance. But I think it was a very functional and professional performance, especially Zagreb and Girona, but even Monaco. Even Atalanta. The Atalanta game was sandwiched between, was it Spurs away and City away or something like that? And even just going there and say, like, okay, we're not going to get beaten. We may not go all out for the win, but we won't get beaten. And it was only a dodgy penalty against Inter Milan for a handball that never was. And that was a mature performance, and I think that sort of flicked the switch. We can go to the San Siro, we can match up. Okay, we got done, but we weren't outplayed, and even I think we outplayed them. So and I think it isn't most entertaining. I think it's just about getting the job done, and it's interesting. So we finished third on 19 points, with a plus 13 goal difference, and tied actually with Barcelona, who scored only 2 goals more than us, and then Liverpool with 21. But you got the likes of, Real Madrid in 11th, Borussia Dortmund in 10th, Bayern Munich in 12th, Milan in 13th, Paris Saint-Germain in 15th, Juventus in 20th, Man City in 22nd. So, not everyone's in third place, not everyone's qualified, So I think there's got to be
conceded, though. It's just, that's the highlight, isn't it? Really,
yeah.
3
that's
goals
absolutely nuts
in the Champions League is absolutely crazy.
And that's how you win the Champions League. Solid defense wins you it. I think it more so than any other competition. I do have, though, I'm not getting carried away. So I think it's really good. But my sense is the big clubs like Real, like Bayern, have sort of managed their way through this. I don't think for them the 2 extra games is a big deal, because their domestic tournaments are not as taxing as, say, the Premiership. So for Aston Villa, for Arsenal, for Liverpool to not have those 2 extra games, I think is a massive thing. Whereas for Real Madrid, for Bayern, 2 extra games there, I don't think it's a big in. I think when it comes to crunch time, they'll be ready. They'll be Real Madrid. They'll be Bayern Munich. So I don't read too much into it. Now, it turns out between Real Madrid, City, and Bayern Munich, one of them's fucked. But in overall, so look, again, I think we navigated the group phase really well. We are third, again, so we are a good side. We show we're a good side, as you said, only letting in 3 goals, but it's sort of, I would say, the end of the beginning, and we managed it, and not going to get carried away saying, oh, we're the third best team in Europe type stuff. I don't know. Am I being too harsh? Or?
No, I don't. I don't think you are being too harsh. I do think that there's a couple of things there. I mean, the new format as well. Actually, this is not a league like going through the Premier League. You don't play every team, so therefore, the table standings are based on the results you get from the draw that you end up getting, which actually can be hugely variable. A good example of that is Girona that we played. Girona this season is an 8th place team in La Liga. Looking like they're not able to make that step up into being a regular Champions League team after a bit of a purple patch. You're not always going to get that team in that seeding, right? Other years, that 4th place Spanish team is going to be a much more competitive outfit. So yeah, it is what it is. But I thought I think the point around the other teams and the leagues that they're in, and I think that is a good point as well. 100%. You've got more opportunity to rotate and rest in some of those leagues. In the Bundesliga, they play 2 games less. In the French league, they play 2 games less. In the Italian league, they play 2 games less. Just on top of the fact that there's a different intensity.
And they've only got 1 domestic trophy as well.
And then in Spain, okay, they play the same number of games, and actually, I think Copa del Rey is still 2-legged as well, which is a bit of a weird anomaly. But they don't take the Copa del Rey seriously until there's 2 of the very biggest in there. And then on top of that, the league tends to be, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it, the Spanish league? It tends to be a bit of a procession from some point. Somebody gets an early league, there's a couple of really tasty clashes, and then around about this time, it just separates and the other one just goes. And it's never really neck and neck right the way to the very end. So, yeah, I mean, I know out there at the moment you've got a fair few points between Real and Barca, and I know Atletico are in second, but I don't know, probably 3-4 points somehow. But I would imagine that's going to separate out a little bit. Real are going to start a procession, and then at that point, they start getting full throttle in the Champions League as well.
It's always that way. Real in crisis until they win the Champions League. That's every
they
year.
fix their crises, aren't they? They save managers' jobs by going in cursory, wins of Champions League match.
I'd love to be in that crisis. So anyway, so in the round of 16, we can play one of Juve, AC Milan, Feyenoord, or PSV. Any preferences?
Feyenoord.
Yeah.
PSV, don't really care out of the 2 of them. I'm going to take the Eredivisie team.
No, I'm the same. I'd say Feyenoord and PSV. I don't care if we played them every year for the last whatever. I want to get through, but then it gets more interesting, and this is where maybe the table has made a difference, because in the quarters, which we need to get there first, it's going to be one of City, Bayern, Real, Celtic, Atletico Madrid, or Bayer Leverkusen. So, and I think one City have to play Bayern or Real at some point, or one of City, Bayern, and Real have to play each other. So one of those teams will be knocked out. So it looks like we're getting Celtic in the quarterfinals.
Absolutely, Tierney and the boys. I would love it to be. I'd love it to be so much as someone who's also sat in Parkhead a bunch of times and stuff. But it's not going to be, is it? Let's face it. So yeah,
let's hope for.
They've just sold their best striker as well, which is really not helping them at this stage either.
Okay,
so unfortunately, she's gone to Rennes.
Yeah. Let's hope for Atleti or Bayern, but Bayern Leverkusen. But I'd be happy to play Bayern Munich again. I think we owe them one, and I think eventually we will have to beat them. And also by the time it comes to the quarters, if we get there, when we get there, we're going to be a different team. I think we'll be fitter. We'll have more players back. Don't know about Saka yet, but at least we'll have
March, isn't it? So you've got a chance against that. We should hopefully have just picked up that bit of form. Tail end of a few competitions.
Ben White should be back.
Yeah, it feels like this is the point in time now. The next couple of weeks, we should be starting to have a stronger and stronger starting 11. There's more and more fit.
And we'll have been rested. I think we've got a couple of breaks coming up. So I think it'll be different. And so we shouldn't fear City. We shouldn't fear Bayern. Real Madrid's a different story, and the others. So and they'll fear us. And if we get a favourable draw, and we avoid Barcelona or Liverpool until the final. So, are you looking forward to the 2006 revenge match in the final? At the final?
No, absolutely not. This is one of these. It's like the we had this conversation before the United game, and I said I do fear the badge with United.
All right.
Bloody rightly, I will say. And then similarly as well, I do fear the badge at Barcelona and Bayern. Weirdly, I don't Real. Real is like because they're an almost unknown quantity. We've played them when we played them once, I think, right? It's
Yeah.
only once, I think. The
Is it just the Henri goal and that's it?
that's
The
it.
one we knocked him out. Is it?
Sure, I don't recall any other time
No,
that we've done it
no.
in
We
the
played
history.
Bayern. We played
Whereas we played
obviously
Bayern
Bayern and
and
Barca.
Barcelona about
Yeah.
70 times in the space. Like it, yeah. So as a result, those two are the teams that I fear, just purely, just instinctively, just going.
Yeah.
It's Bayern and Barca, and we don't deal well with those, and that's never going to not be in there. From a rational perspective, you don't want to bump into, you really don't want to bump into Real in terms of their pure talent. But I will say
They're beatable.
they don't. Yeah, they are beatable. This is not the Real of very, very old. They're not that dominant. They've got something in there, but maybe they turn into a complete and utter different beast in this next part of the competition. Maybe they really didn't give much of a toss until now, and all of a sudden we're going to see the very best of Mbappe and
Well, he's hit form. Last year though, they were a penalty shootout from being knocked out against Man City, so they just somehow find a way. You have these teams that somehow find a way, but we'll see. They don't win it every year. At some point
we'll need to leave it back for that one, though. I will say. I mean, I think almost anyone we play at that stage, I'm more sweating maybe on Saliba even than anyone else.
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah,
I think he'll be fine. But yeah, look, we'll be a bit of a different team. A lot can happen between now and those games. We've got to get through to the quarterfinals. Let's just see. Let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy this moment, and who knows what happens in those knockout stages, and see. But we're there. We miss those bits, and then we don't play. I think until end of February, beginning of March. When is it? The round of 16. It says the draw is on the 21st of February, so it won't be until March until they start.
Jesus,
so
that far away, is it?
Yeah. So, and they say we'll have been to Dubai twice, and we'll be rocking and rolling, and we'll have a front line of Watkins and Isaac, and what nothing can stop us now. So
Ben White's hand's going to be gorgeous, isn't
it? He's already. I think he's there at the moment.
That's my assumption, to be honest. Anytime Ben White's not playing football, I'm pretty sure he's in Dubai.
So so that's Europe over and done with now for a month, shall we say? I mean, we'll be watching the draw on Friday and then the subsequent draw end of February. But it'd be nice to watch it from afar in a position of comfort. But now we need to move back to domestic stuff, the joys of the week in week out of the Premiership and the transfer window and. News broke yesterday before the game, during the game, or whatever was that we'd made a bid for Ollie Watkins from Aston Villa. I mean, would you make of that bid? I mean, would you take him at what price?
It's a super interesting bid. I've been hearing from Villa fans all season. Actually, the couple I know that they were convinced that one of the two of them were going to go, and more likely it was going to be John Duran. The fact that both of them might go is just absolutely mental. I can't understand a world, in fact, in which both of them do go close to the end of the transfer window. So that's my bit of caution there, is that if Duran is off to Al Nassr, then I just can't see how we get Watkins. But seemingly, at the same time, bids of this nature do not occur without a huge amount of groundwork being done. Very clearly, Ollie Watkins and his agent must have been indicating that they're up for the move and they think a deal can be done. So, I would expect that there is a deal there to be made somehow. 60 million doesn't seem like bad value. So if it's only, if you go north of that by another 20 mil even, I think that sounds like a half decent deal for a player like Ollie Watkins, I'll be honest. I don't think you get that kind of quality at a number 9 with, all right, maybe only 3-4 top years left, but I'll take them for that kind of value very often.
It's definitely a win now signing. I mean, you're right. And the point I was going to make, you don't make a bid like that without some sort of encouragement somewhere. be it from the club, be it from the player, unless there's a slither of opportunity. Now, maybe a slither, but there's an opportunity there. 80 million's a bit, for me, that's a bit steep, because I think that impacts other business. Like, he's age 29. He turned 29 in December, so he's like the lower end of 29. And I thought it was young. I thought it was younger than that. He's obviously got a bit of a baby face. So Villa may be looking to cash in, but also at that age, you look at Kane, you look at Lewandowski. Now, okay, they're statues up front, but they're statues who score goals. So and maybe. And I think Watkins is obviously a different sort of player. We saw him I saw him in the flesh, a couple of weeks back, and his movement is fantastic still at this age. So I don't know if his age curve, he's going to be one that drops off a cliff.
Yeah, I think part of that is also, though, and this goes back to the old kind of Arsene Wenger stuff of talking about, your age is almost irrelevant. It's the number of miles your legs have done. And with Ollie Watkins, he didn't play top flight football until he was about 23, 22, 23, because he was down at Exeter for quite a long time, playing midfield at Exeter, and was really good. Was in I think he was in the League Two and League One teams of the year, and then he was at obviously went to Brentford and came up with Brentford. So or did he even might have left before they came out? Either way,
no, I think he left before it was Tony, the one that brought them up.
Yeah, but either way, he was at Brentford obviously when they were in League One. I think he was about 23 by the time he started playing in the Premier League, and you then get that kind of high intensity. You're starting to put real miles on the clock. So I wonder if he's maybe got a little bit more left in the tank.
So are you saying he's the new Ian Wright?
He could well be the new Ian Wright. Do you know though? There's little bits and bobs about him. I mean, he could be the new Ian Wright, or Jamie Vardy, or or Stuart
fuck no,
Pearce,
no, he's the new Ian Wright. I'm joking.
The boys who don't go up to the Premier League until they're in their 20s largely get a longer career out of it. Whereas the sad fact is that more than likely we'll have a knackered Saka at 30. That does tend to be the way. So,
I like that thing about miles in the legs. I'm calling it the new Ian Wright. He comes in, he makes a massive difference. I mean, look, he's already got 10. He's got 10 Premier League goals and 5 assists this season. He scored once in the Champions League. He scored for England. I mean, last season he got 19 goals and 13 assists in the Premier League. I mean, that's a great return. So he can score, and he has got a bit more all-round play about him, and things like that. So, and he's in the top 90 plus percentile for like goals per 90, assists per 90, goals and assists, XG, XA. The only thing he's really low down on is cards. And when he comes to us, that will go up through the roof. So that's right. So, he doesn't get booked. Well, come to Arsenal, mate. He's not been booked.
Ian Wright, eh?
Yeah, he's not been booked once this season. Jesus, we'll sort that one out. So, but I think you're right. I think Duran going to Saudi, that still isn't a done deal, because I think Boniface from Bayer Leverkusen is maybe potentially in the mix. But then also Villa are looking to get João Felix on loan from Chelsea. They bought Marland. So who knows? It seems a bit odd, but also aren't Aston Villa in PSR trouble? You saw them trying to make some dodgy deals during the summer.
It looks like a PSR play. This looks like they've realised they're not. They're not going to be well positioned next season. I think.
No.
They've had the reality of going, Champions League's been lovely this season, but we're not getting that money next season. So we need to make some moves.
And Emery made a really Emery statement. So I don't know if this is his English or if there's something to read between the lines. And he said, I don't want him to be sold. It's good news to have offers from other clubs. A bit odd. Every player can be in the market in case it's good for the player, club and the team. But to get this deal, of course, we are going to be very demanding, and Watkins is our striker. So it's a bit of double speak, a bit of Emery speak. But that's not equivocally saying he's not for sale, he's our player, go away. It's sort of saying, if the money's right, okay, let's do a deal. So, there's a very bizarre...
He's been a selling manager largely in his career. So his time at Sevilla, in particular, he was a selling manager. He had, talent leave the club on a regular basis. And I mean, to be frank, at clubs that aren't that dissimilar to Villa as well. So I think maybe he's just quite open and not necessarily the you absolutely get off my lawn, you can't have my striker time. Especially
you're
when it
right.
seems futile if he knows he's going to go. But it is a bit of an odd one, and the quote is very Spanglish, isn't it?
Yes,
So,
yeah. That's why I'm taking it with a pinch of and well, I can't think of the words now. I bet no one who reads that statement can't do it not in the Emery accent. So if you were to read it in your head, it's Emery speak. Anyway, look, it shows. It shows this. This shows we're trying to do stuff. Everyone said, "Oh, Arsenal aren't doing anything." I think we are trying. Arsenal are very trying at times, but I think we are trying to do something. Are we trying to do the right thing? Are we going for the right opportunities? It's never easy. I think what's also causing an issue is I don't think much business. I think the dominoes will start to fall after tonight, because once the European games are over, a lot of teams will know where they stand for this season, where they stand for next season, what money they're getting, what money they're not getting. And I think they just want to see. And unfortunately, we also need to wait for the likes of Man United and Tottenham to finish off their Euro Cup, Euro Trophy, whatever, thing, and all the other teams, subsequent teams, for it all to suddenly start to happen. So I think there's an element of that, and that's why it's all been a bit later in the window, later stuff. And I think over the weekend it's going to get quite busy. But I hope we don't get caught out chasing red herrings and missing out on other opportunities like we've done in the past.
Yeah, I think the only massive issue with Watkins actually is just we don't get to use him in the Champions League.
No, I think you do. I think there's you can re-register in the new stages. I think.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think we're that dumb. Well, yeah, because most of the people who we're going for are Champions League based. I would suggest. And there's also been news of Tell from Bayern, which I think on paper sounds interesting, or it sounds like a nice from a media perspective. But he's 19, 20 in April. He can play across the front three, but he's not been getting minutes for Bayern. His numbers aren't great. Hasn't scored all season. Not much in the assists, not much in the the numbers don't look great, and you think, well, he's not really pulling up any trees. So he's a cast off from Bayern at the end of the day. Maybe a good potential move, but is he going to move the needle? Is he what we want? He's a development player, not someone for now.
Yeah, I mean, I like it as a move in general, though. I will say I looked at him a little bit because he was around, obviously, when we played him the other season. I think he did get some minutes in that game, didn't he? In the home game, because they were struggling with. Yeah, they only had about 8 of their 17 odd wingers available to them.
We'll swap your left back. We'll swap your left back for a winger.
Yeah, absolutely. But I had a little look at him at the time, and he does look like a really exciting player. But and I think not getting minutes at that Bayern team, given the players they have in wide positions, is sort of understandable. So it seems like a fun move if it's happening. But you hope that they're not putting all the priority energy into it, don't you?
Yeah, no, I see. Look, it is what it is. We've got until Monday, 11 o'clock, when the window slams shut. So let's just see. I think we're trying something. I'm 50-50 on whether we will or won't do something beyond Naipan. So that I'm not saying that's a given, but I'm going to ignore that in terms of what we need and what we want up front. Yeah, I'm on the fence. The noises are right. But this is Arsenal, and we've in the past had good noises, and then we tried, but nothing could happen. Yeah, that's not going to pass muster this time around, I don't think. So look, just one more domestic thing before we move on. So MLS's red card was rightfully rescinded. Much quicker than a VAR decision in some respects on Tuesday.
Pretty good, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so much to the chagrin of the PGMOL and the U-turning press and media. So, but you had something to say, in the group chat, about refs and just the discourse in general. So look, we've got 10 minutes. We've got to get through this and a bit of a City preview. So yeah, just quickly share what you were saying and your thoughts on some of the discourse around this.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it feels like being negative about a negative, but the for me, I do think that certainly the atmosphere around football, almost for those few days after the game, and even somewhat now, just feels it. It feels quite disengaging for me because the degree of of, uh, of of criticism, some of the language being used, just how sort of some of the rhetoric was really, really strong towards everybody, really, towards Michael Oliver, PGMOL, the Premier League, or every other club, all sorts of stuff. But I think, in particular, towards Michael Oliver, obviously, I do think we get to a point sometimes of just completely losing sight of the fact that it's a person trying to do a job. And that job, I think, is incredibly difficult to do. You are running around making decisions whilst running further than the vast majority of footballers run for 95, 100 minutes at a time these days. And I think there's a little bit of respect that's kind of due, a basic respect, not the earned respect necessarily, but a basic respect for the fact that that is somebody trying to do their job. You can critique them all you like. And yeah, I had loads of criticism for Michael Oliver and that. It was a crap game, crap decision. 100% needs to be overturned. But I think the degree to which things got out of hand, I think we were on the wrong side of quite often as a fan base. And I don't often lump the fan base all in together. But I think, to be honest, it was like 90% of the fan base was, to me, just going a bit too far. Now, depending on what forums those people enjoy, whether that be down the pub, whether it be private WhatsApp groups, whether it be Twitter, whatever, depends on, how much that's kind of how egregious that is. But I think all of the conversations that we have, regardless whether they be down the pub, in the stadium, on WhatsApp or whatever, all those kind of private conversations feed into that massive echo chamber of negativity and toxicity and abuse that kind of tends to follow referees at the moment. But the main thing I just think is a little bit sad is I just think it just ends up clouding the game because we had the same crap in the 90s, we had the same crap in the noughties, we had the same. It's always been there. We just see the decisions way more often now. They get booted around social media. They get booted around the press. Gary Neville talks about them all the time and then tells you off for being mad about them, which is a bit bloody silly. But we've created this kind of culture where we're so absolutely obsessed by these things that for me, like, it just took away from the fact that the game's rather beautiful to me, and I think just sort of ruin it with just constantly harping on about a bloody referee decision and making that your biggest talking point of a weekend. So that's my rant.
No,
But
no.
it's not a
It's
massive criticism of
no.
individuals necessarily. I think it's more of our shared culture is going to a point of rampant negativity and
Yeah.
divisiveness. And there is a whole thing about what that is in the rest of society and all over the world and all sorts. But specifically in football, I just think it's a little bit sad. And I think we just lose perspective too often.
I think it's a valid point of view. I think I responded. There's a various. I think it's more the reaction is more and the overreaction or maybe the bad side of it, which I think most reasoned Arsenal fans aren't part of. We're critiquing and we do feel unjustly treated, and there's evidence to that, and also the way. And I think Michael Oliver's been bundled in with the PGMOL here, and he's got his history, he's got his past with us, and we can look at all of that. And I think we all said, look, fine, he makes a mistake, but then the subsequent processes are failing, and then the doubling down on that are failing, and then the PR debacle there afterwards are failing. So I think it then gets very binary. So it's just basically, you're either on one side of the fence or the other, and the nuance goes out the window. And I think this is a reflection on society. Everything is scrutinized to within an inch of its life. Everything is available for everyone to see. There's no hiding place. And so maybe, in the past, there was this deference to people in authority, sometimes rightly, sometimes wrongly. And now people feel more beholden and emboldened to actually challenge authority, whereas in the past, just being in authority was enough to put down on the little folks, so to speak. So I think this is the real negative and real bad side of this is a reflection on society and the way society goes, and this happens in politics, it happens in entertainment, it happens in other sports, and I think why would we be any different? And look, I think the abusing and making threats is completely wrong and should be punished, and there is no place for that. But there should be. But that doesn't mean we can't criticize or ignore how shit the other side of the ledger is in terms of how it's refereeing and things like that. So, and the PGML don't help themselves. The complete lack of humility and the inability to admit that they can make a mistake or be wrong means nothing will change and they'll stay the same. And I think they feel it's a weakness, whereas for me, it's actually a strength, because if you can show that actually, okay, we may not be perfect, well, then you build bridges and then you work together to improve it. So, and again, along with the PR stuff, and now the media have U-turned from all being like, I say all the media, so I'm bundling all in, but all being like, oh, what a terrible decision, to MLS is the villain, as someone in the Mirror wrote. Granted, it was a professional foul, but it's a professional foul. Now they're attacking him, and it deflects from the actual issue. And then you've got Karen Neville saying we're entitled, and it's such a disingenuous bullshit, because it completely misses the big picture, completely misses the context, and so on. I think the other thing as well is people have got column inches, people have got podcasts to fill, people need to talk about stuff day in, day out, and controversy sells. So I think it's all bundled in. So I think you're right. I think we do get very emotional and do get react. And actually, I was sort of wondering whether to talk about this sort of stuff today, but I think it's important to close this subject out. But also, I think the people that are doing what they do that result us in talking about this can do better, and I think that's where a lot of the frustrations come, and that's where we build up this sort of resentment and stuff. So instead of doing this, we're all in this together, which we maybe felt a bit more in the past. A bit like when you had that more affinity with footballers, down the pub, and you maybe have the same with the referees, and now it's all them and us, and it's all tribal, and it's a reflection of society. But I think you've got some valid points that we should respond, not react. Sometimes.
How do you channel it into something positive? Is part of it, and if there is a genuine, is that hard? And you mentioned politics, you mentioned the outside world, outside of the Arsenal, and it's something where if you base everything on outrage, and I think you're absolutely right about content-based media as well, and short-form media and so on, and needing lots of content and provoking people, provoking strong reactions from people is ultimately what gets a lot of people paid these days. If we create this environment where all we do is shout and shout and shout, and there's loads of outrage, and then the PJMO get very defensive, because to be fair, they're being attacked. That's what people do. Even when they're in the wrong, they tend to. I've done it many times. I've been defensive when I've been totally in the wrong in my life. That is a thing that people tend to do. But if you go too strongly on the attack, then all you do is that you create this environment where everything does become us and them, and there is no meeting in the middle. And the one thing I will make the point of is just compare it to a couple of other sports. I do think as well, I'm becoming increasingly swayed by the argument that I think that we should be not deferential to referees. I'm a huge rugby fan, and I've always hated calling a referee sir in rugby. I hate it. It is horrible, almost classist kind of nonsense.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
However, I do absolutely believe that the captain comes and talks, etc., having a bit more discipline and order along those lines, and being much more severe in the way that we discipline people for dissent, of which we are really bad for it at the Arsenal. We are moany and we are dissenting, and our manager is one of the worst. I don't have any. I love them all, but I have no illusions that we are like that. And part of that is an edge that we've got, but there should still be some kind of keeping it in check a little bit more. And I don't want to be quite as orderly as the rugby players, but I do think it's all got a little bit silly and out of hand. And that feeds into everything. It feeds into the stands. And it's just a bit of a lack of respect for the profession. And I think a big part of my concern, and what I omitted earlier that I should have really said, is that if you create this environment and you make that job so hard, what is the quality of person you go into?
Yeah, that's true.
I'll tell you now, you do not get. If you create,
you don't get the best. Yeah, why should I do that? Why the fuck should I put myself under that scrutiny?
It's only the same as there are a couple of people in the industry I work in that reward people very highly for the work that I do in kind of product management, where I will not touch with a barge pole because I know how toxic those environments are from people that have been through it. Yeah. They do not attract great talent anymore. They used to. They threw it down the toilet, and as a result, they've been moving backwards on their product for quite some time. They are well known within my industry. That is what we are doing with referee is that, and admittedly, I'm not sure if I am the talent that they need, but nonetheless, they are lacking a lot of very talented people because they just don't go there anymore. And that's what we'll do with refereeing, because you're not going to attract great people if you're giving them the option of stepping up into a cauldron of hatred.
No, fair enough. And unfortunately, I will have the last word. Just don't be shit. Right. Anyway, so let's talking of being shit. We played Man City Sunday. Woohoo! Right. Okay. So we've got a couple of minutes to do this. I hope you're okay to stick around for a couple more minutes.
Fine, yeah.
Right. What are you looking forward to and not looking forward to about the game against fourth place Man City?
I am really looking forward to. I'm just not actually. I'm going to be completely honest with you about this. I'm just not looking forward to it. It just feels a month too early. I really didn't fancy
or too late.
Or too late? No, I think it's too early. I think we just
not even when City was shit.
I
a month
have
ago.
a lot of feeling that. Well, yeah, from their perspective, actually, you're probably right. Yeah, we probably could have done with that. But yeah, I think we're just. I have a feeling we're just starting to pick our legs up a little bit after being really leaden-footed, and it would be. I could just see us in a few weeks being in a much better place and being in a bit of momentum. Like we discussed earlier, hopefully starting to get players back and around or whatever. And I just think we're not there yet. And picking up your legs against the team who, on the other hand, are resurgent. They've done the picking up their legs. They did that a few weeks back. Their form's picked up. They've brought in a couple of new players. Yes, one of them looked a bit ropey. The other one looks quite decent. We'll see. But they look a little bit rejuvenated now. And I would have preferred if Kyle Walker was playing as well, to be honest. So that's sort of getting as well. I'm just not looking forward to it. It's not my bag, this one at the moment.
No.
Because I like us playing City when we're feeling like we're on a bit of got a bit of momentum behind us.
We never seem to play them when we're at our best.
No.
And that bugs me. Or we play them when 10 men against Trossard, 10 men against them away from home. We just always seem to turn up, and then the narrative gets spun differently. When we lose 4-1, but no surprise when we're playing Rob Holding at centre back, or whatever. So yeah,
we've got Jakob Kivior for this one, my friend. So
sorry, are you saying Saliba's out long term? Something? Do you seem to be alluding to? You don't think he was just rested last night?
Maybe it was. Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
He must be just rested. We brought him forward for Wolves. He doesn't need to play. Rest him up for the week, and he'll be fine. He'll be him and Raya. So what I'm not looking forward to is Neto in goal and Kivior at centre back. No, I'm not looking for that. They've found some form, found some goal scoring form. Foden's been nowhere for this season. They're all of a sudden scoring goals. It would have been nice to play them when they were their humble crap selves a few weeks back when they were losing game after game after game. So that's a bit unfortunate in terms of timing. What I'm looking forward to, it's about time we gave them the hiding that they truly deserve. It'll be a big game. It'll be a big atmosphere. I think the whole red card stuff, rightly or wrongly, will rile the crowd up in the right way. And I think it will be a big atmosphere, and we'll be right behind the team. And so, it's going to be an interesting one. I think, we've rested key players this week. They had an important big game. Okay, eventually with 30 minutes to go, 20 minutes to go, I think they were done, but they had to go through a big game, a must-win game midweek. So, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But look, they went through a period, was it from November the 2nd through to December, where they won one game, drew a game, and lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. And then from end of December to last week, they've won 4 and drew one against Brentford. Now they were 2-0 up, came back to 2-2, could have even lost that game. So I think defensively they're still a bit leaky. Midfield they're challenging, but they're scoring goals. So they've scored 3 against City, 6 against Ipswich, 4 against West Ham, 2 against Leicester. So they've not been playing great teams, but they're just picking up a bit of form. Injury wise, they're getting the defenders back. It's only Ake and Doku really.
Scorers at the moment is the main thing.
Yes,
that's the main. So, if they just go absolute ham, I just see them outscoring us.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, that's it. I mean, So, what do you think? Any other thoughts on the game, or what's your prediction?
I never like to predict the Arsenal losing, so I'm not going to. And I'm going to go with 1-1 and just pluck that out of the sky and say they don't. Neto doesn't play in goal.
Please no.
Everything is fine. My impression of it was only because somebody told me literally last night in a crowd pub as to why he wasn't playing against Girona. It was a fellow Gooner who was there. So actually, if that wasn't a thing, then I'm delighted because that will help my prediction. But yeah, I'll go 1-1 and just hope.
Okay, Kivior will not play centre back. He will go Partey at right back and Timber in the middle. I'm certain of that. If Saliba's not fit, I'm the same. 1-1, 2-1. I think the atmosphere will carry us a long way. I think you're right. We're finding some legs. I'm predicting a draw as well. So I'm forgetting the context of the season. I just think as a one-off match, it's going to be close. It's going to be tight. Haaland can score a goal from anywhere. I said we've both got players that can do stuff. I think our midfield will be better. I'd love to see Partey, Rice and Odegaard in the midfield against their midfield. I think we will dominate.
Yeah.
If Saliba's playing, he has Haaland in his pocket every game. It would be typical again that we turn up and again we're playing City and it's not our strongest team. And then but let's hope. Let's see. It's on Sunday. Few days rest. Let's get our feet up and there we go. So look, we did our best. We tried to get in under the hour, failed miserably, but there we go. And I blame you, Jamie, for that because I was trying really hard. But anyway, look, thank you for that. I really enjoyed that. Really appreciated it. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And look, you can follow us on Threads and Blue Sky at the Grove AFC. Next show will be out post City and then pre-Newcastle in the Carabao Cup second leg semi-final miracle up at St James's Park. So
thank you. Forward to City more than that Newcastle game. That's going to be
good. I'm going up to Newcastle's. I'm going.
I might not even watch it.
It's going to be the miracle on the Tyne. It's the miracle on the Tyne. There we go. Anyway, we'll worry about that on next week. So look, thanks again for everyone who listened. Thanks again for all your previous comments last week, especially. And there we go. And until the next time, sleep tight, Michael Oliver, and come on, you Gunners.